Our total manufacturing costs are $20 million. With that, we can make 39,379 units. What is our approximate cost per unit? So this is basically division. So this is not something you can expect to be asked. You can expect that you've been asked during an interview. This is just one segregation of what type of case questions there are. Then secondly, what we'll be discussing today would be profitability cases. So profitability cases are basically any case which expects you to find, analyze, or predict profits. So anywhere, if profits is involved, that comes under profitability cases. For example, our client is a tea code manufacturer. They've been reporting too high profits and want you to figure out why that is so. Now, too high profits isn't exactly a problem, but still you kind of need to understand where these profits are coming from, so that you have a better understanding of what's going on in the entire value chain. After that, the third type of cases are market entry cases. Again, so I'll give you an example first. Our client is a telecom operator. They're looking to diversify their presence in India and wish to enter the electronic home security market. They want you to estimate potential profits and want you to suggest how to capture significant market share. So any company who is famous for specific products, if they want to venture out into a new market, if they want to check whether they'll be able to survive in an ABC market which they haven't tapped before, then they sort of take the help of consultants and they ask them whether it's possible, like, can you sort of figure out whether this is possible for us? And that's a market entry case, which we'll not be discussing today, but maybe in the future. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you can put all the points over here. I'll explain them together. Cool. So basically, a guideline before we delve deeper into how exactly do we solve the case. These are some of the steps that sort of make a very concrete framework as to how you can go about solving cases in case interviews or case studies. Initially, summarize the question. So for example, if somebody asks you that sales are going down, so you aren't really sure that whether it's talking about the number of like the units being sold, have those decreased, or profit margins, like what exactly is the question. So if there's any ambiguity in the question, you can summarize your understanding in front of the interviewer so that there's no confusions. Positioning of the paper, it's usually recommended to solve it in a landscape mode. We'll show it in the next slide. Verify the objectives. So a case interview is usually 15, 20, 25 minutes long. And once you start off on a particular trajectory, on a particular path, it's very difficult to deviate in the middle. So it's obviously it's preferable that you can actually work towards what the interviewer wants you to find out. So initially, if you can verify the objectives in front of him or her, that this is what you expect me to find, and this is what I'll be basing my entire structure upon. So that will be verifying the objectives. Ask preliminary questions. This is something we'll be explaining to you a little further. Develop a strategy. So basically, every different type of case, be it a acquisition case, be it a merger, be it a market entry, profitability, any case it would be, you need a specific strategy. So you need to develop a strategy thereon, sitting over there, that how exactly do you want to go deeper into the case and solve it. Segmentation is nothing but just again specifying the problem a little more. You can't have your analysis can't be very broad-ended. It cannot be something which is very open-ended. You need to give specific answers to specific problems. So segmentation is just digging a little bit deeper into the outcomes of your strategy. Communicate your thought process. Now, I can't stress on this enough. It is very, very, very important to communicate your thought process during a case interview, because if you're stuck somewhere, the only way for an interviewer to kind of help you, to kind of guide you in the right direction, is if you communicate your thought process. If you just keep thinking and keep writing and don't talk to them, they also can't help you, and it's kind of not really what the interviewer is looking for. So you need to keep talking to them about what you're thinking, what you plan to do, what's the next step, and how you plan to go further. Isolate the problem. Again, so even if a specific company is having losses worth $10 million or whatever, in the end, the problem is it's actually stemming out of a very minor problem most of the times. So you need to isolate the major issue, that this is the problem and this is why it's kind of magnifying and causing your company so many issues. So you need to isolate the problem and present it to the interviewer, make recommendations and give supporting reasons. So after you've done the entire case study, you need to give the conclusion as to why this particular problem, which was being given to you, why is this problem there. If they ask, you can give recommendations too, and it should also be in a very systematic manner as to this is the conclusion. These are the pieces of information which sort of support my conclusion, and then this is my recommendation to you. So this is sort of a basic guideline of how you should go forward with each case interview. Right. So positioning of the paper. This is something which it's not, this is just a recommendation by us. This is something you can use. The objective, the key question of the case, you can put in the beginning on top of the paper. Now, when you keep asking for data in the middle, when you're asking for specific information, you need to write it clearly so that 10 minutes down into the case, you aren't really confused as to this, what are these figures representing, what was this for. So on the left side of the page, you can jot down all the notes from the initial prompt. Any calculation, any mathematical calculation that's needed, you can put that on the right side. And in the middle can come the main workings of the case. We'll show you a tree structure and how to go about the case in the next slide. So the entire details regarding the case can come in the middle. So this is one option as to how you can position the paper during giving your case interview. Right. So now coming into what this webinar is about, what are profitability cases? I've told you this before, that any case which expects you to find, analyze, or predict profits is basically a profitability case. For example, your client is a spirits company which makes vodka of late. This is I think the case which Soumya will be solving with you all in the second part of this webinar. Your client is a spirits company which makes vodka of late. They have experienced a decline in profits. Why is this happening? What recommendations can you give to turn this around? So again, this is a very good example of what a profitability case is about. And you can understand that this has nothing to do with entering a new market or a different business strategy. You just need to find what is the main cause of the decline in profits over here. So yeah, so this is a profitability case. Right, so this is very similar to what we showed before, just a little tinkered with respect to the profitability framework. Again, summarize the question, verify the objectives, ask preliminary questions. We'll be again explaining you what these questions are that you need to ask before you actually start working on your structure. After that, formulate, convey your strategy. Isolate the problem in the profit structure. This, like, it'll sound a little bit of business jargon right now. You'll understand it in a better sense once we go ahead in the presentation. Isolate the segments with the issue, isolate the problem along the value chain, ask follow-up questions, and offer. So basically, in the entire framework, what you need to do, once you're clear with what you need to find, you can go ahead with asking preliminary questions. Then you need to sort of start with your strategy, followed by segmentation, and then you dive into the value chain. So these are sort of the crux of structure of the case interview, which you can follow. Yeah, I think we can go ahead, Soumya. Right. So preliminary questions. Before you start with your structure, again, as I mentioned before, clarify ambiguous questions. If sales are mentioned, does it mean that the revenue is suffering, or does it mean that the units sold, are you selling less number of units? So it can be both. So you need to sort of clarify this from the interviewer. How high or low are the profits? How long has this been an issue? Is this a long-term problem? Is this a short-term problem? All of that. And now, always sort of, you should always include product, geography, value chain, and industry in your preliminary questions. When you talk about the product, you need to ask what exactly is the client's product, what exactly is, what exactly are they offering, what are the competitors' product, and how do they compare. So you sort of have a good idea of how your product differentiates to your competitors. Geography, what geography does the company operate in? Is the issue specific to some geography? Again, this is a part of segmentation. This is something which that you can clarify in the beginning to sort of understand whether it's a localized issue or it's happening with the global market. Value chain, where do we lie in the value chain? So again, value chain is basically, in simple language, it's kind of a business model that describes the full range of activities needed to create a product or a service. So from production to distribution to sales, the entire process, that's called the value chain. The industry, is the problem an industry-wide issue, or is the problem specific? What is our market share? So again, if the entire industry is faltering, there's nothing, like, there's not too much that you can do, like, or you can do stuff very different to whether if it was an issue which was company specific. So these are some of the questions which you can ask to have a better understanding of where the case should go from here. Yeah, we can go ahead. Competitor benchmarking. So yeah, just a sec. So competitor benchmarking is basically you having a thorough analysis, you giving out a thorough analysis of how your competitor's product is different from what you offer. So you can kind of, get a better understanding of, if they offer you a better product, then obviously the market will drift towards there. So this is something which you can do to again get a better idea of how either we're going forward or lacking from our competitors. Yeah, that's about it. This. All right. So until now, we've talked about the preliminary questions. Now we dive into the strategies you can use for profitability cases. So what exactly is profit? Profit is revenue minus cost. It's as simple as that. You don't need to think any further. These are the only two parameters which, when changed, can actually change the profit. If revenues can go down or if the costs can go up, your profit changes. So this is basically the crux of it. So you can ask the interviewer whether the issue is with the revenue, whether the issue is with the cost, and what exactly is where the problem lies. Also, guys, if you have any questions during the webinar, you can just put them in the chat box, and Soumya can, answer them as and when. Cool. Going ahead, if it's a revenue issue, what exactly is revenue? Revenue is the number of units into the price of each unit. That's the total revenue. And what is cost? Cost is cost per unit into number of units. So you sort of, I think you can understand what we're doing here. We're kind of diving deeper into what the main problems are, whether it's a revenue issue, whether it's a cost issue. If it's a cost issue, you can go deeper and see whether it's, how it's going deeper into the tree. So this is pretty much it with the profit structure. Regarding cost, there are two types of cost, fixed and variable. To give you an example, if, for example, taxes are kind of fixed cost. If you're selling a pencil, what quality of the rubber at the back are you selling? All of that comes into variable costs, which can change by external factors. This is something which can be changed, and fixed cost is something which, as the name suggests, is fixed. Note, revenue and cost can be further divided into NICE segments, which can be based on product type, geography, distribution channel, etc. So MECE segments are basically mutually exclusive and comprehensively exhaustive segments, which means that when you're dividing anything, when you're dividing a particular product into whatever markets, you need to be, you need to cover everything. If you're dividing by geography, you simultaneously can't divide it by something else, so that there's a sort of intersection. Like, you must have studied this in probability in class 12th. It basically needs to include everything. So nothing can overlap, and you need to sort of, the universal set needs to come into picture. This is basically MECE segment. So these segments, this note means that if at any time you need to segment further, it should only be a very exclusive segmentation where you don't miss out on anything. So yeah, that's with the profit structure. Segmentation, cool. So again, so when you understand whether the issue lies with the profit or the cost, you can go ahead with segmentation. Why we actually do segmentation is, as I mentioned before, at the end of the interview, you need to give the interviewer a very, a very crisp or detailed answer as to ABC are the reasons which are causing these problems. You can't give them a very broad, open-ended answer as to why whatever's happening is happening. So segmentation is just to, again, dive a little deeper into the problems. So you can segment into by these three basic parameters. Geography, for example, if sales are going down, sales for a liquor company might have declined in Eastern India after the liquor ban in Bihar. This would not affect other regions. So you know that this particular problem is because of this particular ban in Eastern India. Product type. Profits for Philips might have increased specifically for air purifiers during the winters when population is at the worst in NCR. So this is more of a product issue that air purifiers are needed more during winter. So all of this analysis can only be done once you actually tell the interviewer that I want to segment on the basis of these things, or I wish to segment. Can you help me over there? The third is distribution channel. For example, people right now prefer the e-commerce industry. They prefer ordering off Amazon, eBay, Flipkart, whatever. And if your company is still stuck to wholesale or retailers, then it may suffer a little because the entire market is shifting to e-commerce. So this is another example of distribution channels. Before we go ahead, is there anything which you want to add, Soumya, to to whatever we have discussed till now?
Okay, so just one thing I wanted to add. For MECI, it might help if I give you an example just so that you can understand it a little better. MECI is mutually exclusive, right? So, okay, so suppose I have to divide in my case, I have to divide into geography, and I'm looking at the entire world. So I can divide it continent wise, right? But the thing is that because it's mutually exclusive, I can't have Asia, Europe, and then, Eurasia. That won't work because they're not mutually exclusive. But then they also need to be collectively exhaustive. So that must mean that I have to include all continents. Just throwing that out there so that you can have a little bit of a example that you can put to MECI.
Yeah,
Back to you, Karan.
perfect. Yeah, we can go ahead. Okay, so value chain, as I explained before, is basically the model which describes the full range of activities. So from a product being produced to distributed to retail, to retailing, we need to find where the exact problem lies. So till now, again, we've asked the preliminary questions. We've gone through the entire strategy. We have segmented, and after this, you need to find where in the value chain does the problem actually lie. So these are the three basic parts of the value chain. We can go ahead. It'll make them understand better. So issues with the value chain can again be either production issues, either distribution pull issues, or they can be customer pull issues. So this basically means what exactly is the part in the value chain where we are suffering, and what exactly can we do better in terms of turning around the profits. Yeah, we can go forward. Okay, so some problems in the production and transportation issues could be, has our production capacity changed? Are we able to supply distributors according to demand? Are all products reaching the different distribution channels through the distributor? So just to give you a clear idea, when you reach the value chain, these are some of the questions that you can ask the interviewer. These questions, once you ask, they can give you a better idea of where exactly the problem lies in the value chain. With respect to the distribution push issue, what are other distribution channels and how do they stack up against our competitors? Is the shopkeeper not selling our products to the customer? These are again some issues with the distribution part of the value chain. And with the customer pull issue, has the overall market of the product reduced? For example, right now with the unfortunate pandemic, the market size for disposable masks and masks in general is increasing. So this is something that you can analyze as well. That has the overall market of the product increased or reduced, whatever. Uh, are the customers buying someone else's product over ours, be it due to better marketing or better product? These are some of the issues with respect to the customer pull. Yeah, anything you want to add, Soumya?
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
Cool. We can go ahead. All right. So, in the customer pull issue, as to product related issues, what the basic segmentation of a product is in two types: commodity and differentiable. A commodity product is when all units of production are identical regardless of who produces them. For example, maybe you can take electricity or oil as an example. uh, for a differentiable product, a company's product is different than those of its competitors. Maybe phones, smartphones, laptops, all of these sort of things are differentiable products where every company has sort of a different product. And if your product is differentiable and the problem lies in the customer pool, then what you can do is you can do a competitive analysis on the basis of product parameters, distribution channels, and marketing. I know it maybe sounds a little too it sounds a little too complex right now, but once you actually start from the beginning, all of it comes in a flow. So what a competitive analysis means that if, for example, product parameters as how what's the for example, if you're talking about a phone, so colors, size, pixel density, all of that, those factors come into product parameters. Distribution channels, again, e-commerce, retail, wholesale, how exactly are you selling those things? And marketing is self-explanatory. So these are the things which you can ask the interviewer, you can work a little bit more upon, that maybe these are the things you need to improve towards. That's about it. So we've kind of come to the conclusion of the first part of the webinar. This is sort of the entire framework. Now, just before I hand it over to Soumya, these are a few tips regarding uh, regarding like what you should keep in mind during you're sitting for a case interview. Take notes throughout. Think before you speak. If you're not sure of a particular term, or if you're not completely sure about something, do not mention it in front of the interviewer. If they kind of catch you, like it doesn't really reflect you in a very good light. Follow the 80-20 rule. Again, the 80-20 rule is basically, if per se the profits are declining because of both revenues and costs, and 80% of the issues are due to revenues and 20% are due to costs, so you can follow solving the revenue issue first, so that you uh, kind of solve 80% of the problem, and then you can go ahead with whatever small changes you need to make. Use your business insights, manage your time. Now, I actually haven't yet sat for a case interview, but Soumya will be able to tell you a bit more about that. I probably think a case interview lasts for about 15 minutes or more or so. Be coachable. Again, you sort of need to be very pleasant during your interview, so that if the interviewer wants to convey something, and if they should feel like you're asking them for help if you want. And be coachable means that whatever answers they're hinting you towards, you should be very respectful, and you should go ahead with those lines, rather than going onto your own spiral of something which they know exactly don't want you to delve into. Work the numbers into the problem. Be data driven. Everything needs to be on the basis of numbers, facts, all of that. Be creative and brainstorm. Exude enthusiasm and a positive attitude. So yeah, these are basically some of the tips which you can remember and you can inculcate while you're actually sitting for the interview. And that's about it with respect to the entire structure and the framework of profitability cases. Just a small recap. Initially, once you verify the objectives, when you've summarized everything, you can go ahead with the strategy. After the strategy, you can go into segmentation. After segmentation, you delve into the value chain. And in the end, you provide whatever conclusion you want. So these are some of the basic steps. I hope it will help you in the future. Now I pass it on to Soumya, who can start the live case with you.
All right. Thanks, Karan. That was very well explained, in my opinion. Hi, guys. I know it was a lot of information to assimilate in half an hour. If anyone has any questions regarding to what all has been said, please put it in the comments, and I'll try my best to answer them. Because after this, we'll do an example of a case, and I'll have you guys doing most of the work. I'll be the interviewer. You're all the interviewees. So that way you can learn, in this live session. So if there are any questions, please put them in. All right, I'm going to assume that there aren't. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I would suggest that just grab a piece of paper and a pen so that you can simultaneously solve these. Okay, so as was mentioned before, this is our example case that your client is a spirits company which makes vodka. Of late, they have experienced a decline in profits. Why is this happening? And what recommendations can you give to turn this around? Right. Now, Karan explained the entire flow very nicely. So the first thing we do is look at preliminary questions. So what preliminary questions would you ask? And this is where you guys come in. Put your preliminary questions into the chat box, and then we'll, sort of whittle down to the problem. Okay, how long has this decline been happening? Um, okay, so I don't have an exact. Okay, so right, so there's been a constant decline for the past 10 years and a rather sharp one last year. Okay, where are they located? Okay, where are they located? All over India. And what's their major customer base and target audience? Right, so their customer base is basically everything. They haven't segmented as such, and target audience would be obviously alcohol drinkers. Is the cost of production consistent? Okay, Ishan, this is not a question that I would suggest you ask in the preliminary questions. This is something you go more into when you come into the value chain. What's the cost? Again, this comes into the profitability structure when you come into that. Ask the preliminary questions that Karan mentioned in the beginning. How old is the company? It's quite well established. All right, okay. So y'all are asking a lot of questions that are not relevant to preliminary questions because okay, so bear this in mind that preliminary questions are always very broad. They ask about the company, they ask about the industry, they ask about how long the problem's been happening for. They don't ask very specifically if the costs are increased or the revenue is increased or gone down. That comes up later. So bear that in mind. Okay. Okay, so market share. Our market share, I don't have an exact number in this case. Okay, right. Another thing I wanted to mention that not every case is number based. Some are, some aren't. What are their competitors? They have many competitors, which have been in the industry for as long as we have. And the overall economy are also facing reduced profits, but their case is not as bad as our clients. And we don't have hard data, but there's evidence that more of the competitors' product is being sold. Okay. And have government policies changed? No, they have not. Um, what are the products they offer? I can answer that. They only sell vodka. That's the only business that they're in. Mm, Again, what's the market equity? How much has the profit gone down? Not relevant here. You might want to ask this further along. Is the decline throughout the country in certain states? This is a good question. The decline has been, falling all over India. It's been uniformly decreasing. And what specific product? I mentioned that the only product that was selling is vodka, so that product has seen the decline. And is the decline industry wide? Again, I mentioned this. Um, okay, the rest of your questions are not exactly relevant to what needs to be asked in preliminary questions, but you've covered most of it. The only one thing that I've not seen, or maybe I've missed, is that what exactly is the product? I mean, you've asked me how many products there are, you've not asked me what exactly the product is. And I told you that's just a simple bottle of vodka, but you could have asked me something like, are there different, right? So vodka is in difference between the sales of different sizes of bottles, just exactly, something like that. So here you could have asked me something like that, and I would have told you that there's only one standard bottle of vodka that we have. So I think you've asked me most preliminary questions. We'll go ahead. I'll give you like 2 minutes to go through this. It covers everything. So you looked at the time frame, which is since when have we been experiencing this decline and how much is this drop? So I told you it's been there for the past 10 years. And there was a rather sharp one last year. Is selling vodka the only business? Yes, it's the only business and it's a standard bottle. Where does it operate? All over India, major metropolitan cities, and the sales have uniformly declined. Right. So one question you did not ask is where do we lie in the value chain? This is very important because if we were only the sellers, then your recommendations would be completely different as to what they are when we manufacture and sell it. So bear that in mind to always ask about the value chain. That is, do we manufacture and sell it to the distributors? Yes, we do. The last one is how is the rest of the industry doing? They're also facing reduced profits, but not as bad as us. And there's evidence that more of their products are being sold. All right. Okay. So just one more question that we have is: do we have a time frame to solve this problem? No. We're just looking at fixable things, but we're looking at it in the short term. Like try and think of short term solutions when we get to that part. All right. Okay. So we're done with preliminary questions. Next comes profit structure. So can anyone tell me how exactly we can divide the profit structure, and then we'll go over it. Right. Okay. So revenue and cost. Then what? So the major problem isolated is related to value. I'm not understanding. Okay. So um, all right. So you're going into volume sold and price per bottle. That's good. I'm assuming you're talking about for both revenue and cost. But again, that would not be because you have to mention if your price is the cost price or the selling price. Right. Okay. So, Nitin, you've written in revenue, volume, and price and cost fixed and variable. That's good. That's exactly what we'll do. We'll divide revenue into the price per unit and the number of units, which is in this case volume. And in cost, we'll divide into fixed and variable. Can you divide the cost any further? All right. You can do direct and indirect costs, but in this case, not so relevant. Try dividing just the variable cost because the fixed cost is not something that we can influence so easily. No. Okay, you guys are going very far. Okay, manufacturing cost, distribution cost, and tax is a good point. We'll come to that later. But think of something very simple. You all have mentioned it above, but think of it just in terms of variable costs. Okay, so based on size of the bottle, I mentioned that we only have one size. So cost of ingredients, no, that's one part of it. Quality of raw materials, that doesn't count here. We're not really looking at the quality. So okay, so you all are mentioning very, very specific parts of it. Think of it as a whole. Cost of raw materials, packaging, transportation, all of this is included in it. Okay, you guys are going very deep into it. I'll just tell you. It's basically it's a very simple thing. You all mentioned it before. It's just cost per unit and number of units. Okay, so this is what the final thing looks like. And since this is a very since there's so many people and I can't really have a one-to-one interview with you. Ideally, what you would do in this situation is that the profit is declining. You would ask me if the revenue has decreased or if the cost is increased. And I would tell you that it's both. The revenue has decreased and the cost has increased. Then you further segment it into number of units and price per unit. And I can tell you that the number of units has gone down. So that's one area of focus you need to look at. That in revenue, the number of units sold has gone down. On the other side, cost has increased, and we have fixed cost and variable cost. Now, fixed cost has been the same, but variable cost has increased. And then once we look at variable cost, we can go into cost per unit and number of units. Now cost per unit again has increased. So that's another focus point. Now, where do we look at first? We have that it's going into revenue. There's an issue in revenue also, and there's an issue in the cost side also. What do we look at first? Okay, why revenue? Right. So this is the 80-20 rule, but in this situation, what you guys should have done is asked me, where is the major problem? So then you apply the 80-20 rule. You don't assume that the problem is majorly in the revenue side. That's why we'll be going to revenue. Ask me before, me because I'm in this situation here, but ask the interviewer beforehand which side has the major problem. So here, the major issue does lie in revenue. So we'll look at revenue first. All right. So let's look at issues in the value chain. Now we'll cover these one by one. Um, okay. First of all, ask all your questions that relate to production or transportation. Okay. You mentioned transportation costs, but what is your exact question? Right. So has there been a change in transportation cost? No, there's not. It's been the same. Packaging cost again. The same. There can be reduction in number of suppliers. Suppliers in what sense? We are producing. And why has production declined? I haven't told you that production has declined. The question you should have asked there is, has the production declined? Cost of raw materials. Again, you guys, you need to frame the entire question. What exactly are you asking in cost of raw materials? Has there been increase in the price of raw materials? No, there's not. Has the supply decreased? No. So the supply is not decreased. And is the contract of transportation given to third party or company have their own department? We have our own department. What about the demand? Okay, so the demand will come in the customer pull. Whenever you solve these questions, whenever you look at the value chain, always look at it segment by segment. So you'll start with the production, then you'll go to distribution, and then you'll go to customer pull. Okay, so basically you asked me sort of in bits and pieces what you're supposed to ask here, which is basically, has our production capacity taken a hit because of which we're not able to produce as much as before, which would explain why our number of units are not being sold as much, but that's not an issue. So we can move on. So that's the only question in production that was relevant to this case. Now let's look at distribution. Has the distribution to retailers decreased? No, the distribution is not decreased. It's the same. Okay, so increase in competition, by that, do you mean that are there more competitors, or do you mean that their products are being sold more? Has there been a delay in delivery? No, there has not been. We've been on time. Okay, are the competitors selling for more or less sale price? Okay, this is an excellent question. Um, but again, this would not come in distribution, that would come in customer pull. So hold on to that question and ask me in customer pull. Any problems from suppliers? No, we're only supplying our own product. We're manufacturing our own product. Is our product more expensive? Again, customer pull. Has there been a new competitor in the last year? No, there's not. Has the competitor introduced a new product? Again, no. Has the number of distributors decreased because of switch to other competitor products? No. Okay, right. So fine. Okay, so we have the question: what are the distribution channels? Right. This is the first thing you should ask, because if you don't know the distribution channels, how are you going to narrow down on the problem? Right. So our distribution channels are that we sell our goods to retail stores and clubs all over Mumbai, and so do our competitors. Our distribute. Okay, wait. Are distributors sufficiently pushing our delivered products? Yes, we have no reason to believe that they're not pushing our products. Are we meeting the demands? Yes, we are meeting the demands, but we're having excessive products left over. Okay, so this question is pre-COVID, so no COVID questions, please. Has COVID affected? Not relevant here. Um, okay, okay, guys. I told you that the distribution. I told you what our distribution channels are. Maybe you want to ask in that direction as to how much we earn in those distribution channels. How do our competitors stack up? Okay, so do we have a warehouse where we store our bottles? That's not relevant because here we're looking at distribution and not storage exactly. Okay, do clubs have a decrease in demand or retailers? Right. That's okay. So basically, what you could have framed this question as is how much are we earning from each of these channels and how much are our competitors earning, and then we can sort of narrow down into which segment is decreasing in demand. So okay, so basically I tell you, we earn 90% from retail stores and 10% through clubs, and our competitors are earning 60% from retail stores and 40% through clubs. Okay. Okay, why is it only being distributed from Mumbai? It's not. It's just an example I took. We can look at one city and we can, sort of figure it out for the entire country. Has there been a natural disaster? No, there has not been. Is there a system to track proper distribution? Yes. Is the distribution equally spread throughout the city? Yes. Are the distributors getting more incentives from competition? That's a good question. No, they're not. What we understand is that the end customers are not buying the vodka, which results in less offers for us. It's not that the distributors have more incentive to sell the competitor's product. No, our distributors are common. And okay, so I think you guys have covered most of the questions here. I'll just show you. So what distribution channels we use and what do our competitors use? How much do we earn and how much do our competitors earn? Why is there a discrepancy? This is one thing you guys could have asked. I don't think that was asked in the questions. And basically, that was because the orders for vodka by clubs from us have been on the decline. The retail sales have stayed more or less the same, but our competitors have not lost sales in clubs. For them, it has increased. Remember that I mentioned right in the preliminary questions that the sales for our competitors have increased as compared to us, which have only dropped. So we'll see. So now we can see that that problem has not been there in the retail. That's only been there in the problem's only been there in clubs. All right. Okay. So let's finally look at customer pull. Remember, this is a differentiated product. Okay, so this question, can we reach other target audiences instead of relying on just a determined target? This would come into a recommendation. This would come right before you recommend something, right? So first, focus on figuring out what the problem is before you look at solutions. All right. Price difference between us and competitors. Our product is more expensive than our competitors' product. Are our competitors' products gaining preference over our products? Yeah, like I said, it's that is the case in clubs, but not in retail shops. Is there a certain flavor that other brands have that we don't? No. We have the superior vodka. Is the marketing done right to attract enough customers? Okay, can you expand on that question? The question is the marketing done right to attract enough customers? Right. So quality of our products, we have better quality, which is why we have priced it higher. Do we have happy hours? Right. We're not shops. We're just providing the vodka. Happy hours is in clubs, which the club owners do. So remember to differentiate what our problem is and what something that's not that we can affect. Is our product known well enough? Yes, we're quite well established. Right. What kind of marketing strategies have we employed? All right. So we have the general marketing strategies that are in place. What I would advise you to ask is right. So okay. So Jitesh has asked, where do we stand compared to competitors on marketing? That is the question you need to ask here. Why? Because then you'll find out that competitors have been marketing on social media and have an EDM festival in Bangalore in addition to the channels we use. So from that we can determine, okay, so everything else you asked, it's mostly the same. We have higher price, but everything else, flavors, the alcohol content, the packaging, which you should guys should have asked, so basically the bottle size, shape, color, everything is more or less the same. Okay, except for the alcohol content, which is higher for us, which is why we have priced it more. Everything else is same. So we'll come on to marketing. And now in terms of marketing, where do we stand compared to our competitors? They are marketing on social media and they have an EDM festival in Bangalore. Okay, which is in addition to the channels we use. So here they have an advantage. So what you can gather from this is that the competitors are doing a better job of attracting a younger crowd, right? So the younger crowd is more tech savvy and will catch on to EDM as opposed to the elders. So hence by associating their product with these channels, there seems to be evidence that our competitors' vodka is more popular than ours in clubs. Okay, so that's how you go from what is the issue in marketing and where do we stack against our competitors to figuring out, all right, this is the problem and this is why we're not able to sell as much. Okay, so the customer base we served 10 years ago is not on social media, and moreover, with age, they're probably drinking less. So that is customer pull. Okay, you asked all of these questions, difference in price, why is it priced more, all of this. Okay, and these were the answers. So I'll give you just 2 minutes to just go through it, and then we'll move ahead. All right, okay. So the one issue was in revenue, and we sort of figured out why we're not able to, sell as many units as we were before. The other issue is related to cost. If you guys remember, the cost per unit had increased. Okay, so before we move on to solutions and trying to fix this problem, let's figure out why that is also happening. So, okay, so ask your questions related to cost per unit. Let's figure out why that's happening, and then we'll move on to recommendations. Okay, has the cost of raw materials increased? No, it's not. It's been the same. You guys can think of this in terms of the value chain again. Increase in production costs? No. Are we using different packaging? No. Has the cost per unit increased? Yes, this is what I told you. That's the premise of this. The cost per unit has increased. Has there been new tax? No. Have we been selling our vodka in a different quantity? No. It's been the same. Has the cost of transportation increased? No. Has the company updated its manufacturing line for greater efficiency? No, we have the same thing as before. Is there a decline in the production? No. Move ahead in the value chain. Are we reaching economies of scale? Yes, of scale. Yes, we are. Are we working at full capacity? Yes. Um, okay. Is there a problem with the transportation of raw materials? No. Has the number of distributors decreased? No. But ask me more questions relating to distribution. Does some other brand attract customers more? Yes, but and that was in clubs. We figured that out. We don't need to work in. We don't need to look at that in cost per unit. Just look at cost related things. Has the cost of packaging materials gone up? No. Has this happened across the industry? Again, you don't need to ask this, and this is a very specific place we're looking at. Has the packaging gotten old and recurring for its customers instead of giving them something new to look forward to? Okay, so this question you can ask me in terms of trying to figure out the solution. Because yeah, we do have one packaging, and that was sort of aimed at our older crowd. Has there been any problem from suppliers? No. Are we giving less incentives to distributors compared to other brands? No, we're not. Is more of our product getting expired? No, it's vodka. I mean, that doesn't really expire. It's very easily. Guys, you're thinking very in a very complex way. Have our distributors tried charging more? Yes, exactly. That's the problem. Our distributors have started charging more, and because of this, our cost per unit has gone up. Okay. Okay, and this has been happening for 1 year. So, can you all give me any suggestions as to how we can fix this? Okay, online sale, yes, that's a good option. Negotiations we tried but did not really work out. Okay, so with other distributors, the problem is that this distributor is the main distributor, and others don't have such a far reach. So that's not something we really want to look into. Our competitors use the same one. We can provide incentives. Yes, we can. What kind of incentives? Right. Okay. So this is a good idea. As you mentioned, 90% of our sales come through retails. To increase profit, we can try selling directly to clubs. Yes, that's a good idea. This is what I was looking for. We can start our own distribution network. Right. So this is a very good idea. Again, cut the middleman, distribute it yourself. Yes, this is a good cost saving idea. But just remember that whenever you suggest something which is drastically different from what is already in place, always talk about running the numbers. That we can try distributing. So something. So if I were recommending it, I would say something like, we can try distributing it ourselves, but we'll have to see if that's profitable for us before we implement it. So remember just to add that line. It makes it look like you guys, have thought this through before you're just, recommending it. So, right. So that was the cost per unit part. So you guys have figured out the problem. We figured out the revenue problem, which was there in clubs. And that was because of our marketing strategies. And now we figured out cost per unit, why that has increased. And that is because our distribution cost has gone up, which is because the distributor has chosen to increase the price. So we can try distributing the cost distributing the product ourselves. Sorry, that should say product. Okay. Now, just before we finally wrap up, what do you think could be the recommendations here? And remember, this is mostly, and you want to tailor your recommendations for the revenue part of it and not the cost part of it, because we already looked at the cost part of it. And remember the 80-20 rule. The 80% of the problem is more important than the 20%, because that is where most of your issues will lie. Okay, so aggressive advertising to appeal more people. All right. Can you explain what kind? Have a new packaging. Okay, elaborate further. Right. So sponsor for concerts, also start some smaller discounts online. Online marketing, that's a good idea. We can look into online marketing. Increasing social media reach, yes. Younger crowds, yes. How can we do this though? Advertise to younger crowds. How can we do it? Okay, so like I said, don't talk about distribution here. Talk only about the revenue. Partnering up with music festivals, yes, you can do that. Targeted marketing, again, please elaborate your points. Social media, sponsor sports events, etc. Yes. Form partnerships with concerts and other events to reach to target a new audience. Yes, exactly. Marketing with younger crowds like Red Bull does it. Yes. Social media, college fest. All right. So you guys have like tailored all your suggestions to the younger audience. Um, okay, so do remember that our vodka was priced a little higher. So do you think the younger population is going to go for it? And if not, then right. So maybe introduce a different product. Right. So how can we do that, and what differences would we have? Think in terms of the entire product. Change packaging, yes, we can definitely change the packaging. So we can look at it in terms of the younger generation and have a different, funky packaging as opposed to just a simplistic and elegant packaging we have for the older product. Change the alcohol content, add flavors. Yes, all of this can be done. There's one, yeah, smaller bottles, right? So if there are smaller bottles, what should be something that we change in response to that? Okay, so rebrand the product as a premium product is a very good idea. The one we originally have, that can be just for, the older generation. We can change the bottle material from glass to plastic, right? I didn't tell you it was glass, nor did I tell you it was plastic. So ask me what the material is before you give me a recommendation on that. Tetra packs can be done. Pricing has to be less, right? This is what I was going for. If we're having something that's for a younger crowd, they're not going to go for a very high priced bottle simply because money issues. So the pricing has to be less. And if we want the pricing to be less, we want something to be changed. And for that, we can have smaller amounts. Right. So this is a good idea. The older edition, we rebranded as a premium product. And the younger, we have a new product for the younger generation. And for that, packaging can be changed as well as the price, which can be less compared to more. Special discounts can be given. Sell limited edition items. Yes, we can definitely. Um, all right, yeah, this is all great. Just one thing. If we have Okay, so we have both our products. We have the older one we have the one for the older generation and the one for the younger generation. What could be our marketing schemes for both? You guys mentioned social media and fests and all of that. That is all fine. Tell me about the premium product. How can we market that better? Right, they are definitely likely to stick with what they've already tried, but how can we can market it better? Since it's higher priced, we want to look at places where, moneyed people frequent. So what could places like that be? Five-star chains, yes, good. Upmarket clubs, yes. Premium clubs, yes. Elite clubs, business meetings, okay. I don't know if people drink in business meetings. Um, Usual marketing channels for premium, social media, yes, it's all good. I do want to look into sort of expanding that marketing reach. Award shows, corporate tie-ups, yes, yes. Golf clubs, yes, it's exactly what I was talking about. Um, we could market the new product as an improved version of the older one, and the old one can be marketed in a better packaging with an elite feel to it. Yes, it's a good idea. Just one thing. The new product, if you market it as an improved version of the older one, do you think people are going to want to drink the older one? Um, so just want something to think about. Other than that, I think you guys have done it very well. Yes, all of these ideas are really good. Tie-ups with upcoming apps. Yeah, we could market the new product as an improved. Okay, you already said this. Um, right. Okay. So all of these suggestions are really good. What just one thing that I was looking for was maybe airport lounges. Those especially those first class lounges. All right. So this is everything that you said. Market the current vodka as a gentleman's drink or a vintage drink. So you guys mentioned premium product. That's fine. This could be our premium product. Okay, great. We must look to increase the distribution channel to airport lounges, airplanes, and other places where money people frequent. So you mentioned a lot of things that can be covered for that. So that's great. Have a slightly cheaper vodka range which targets the youth, and the packaging should be attractive and funky, as well as marketing on social media can be co-branded with aspects associated to youth, which is music festivals, fests, fashion shows, sports, entertainment. You mentioned all of this, and we could invest in a brand ambassador. This is again just something extra. You don't have to mention this, and it's okay that you guys didn't. It's not such a big deal. And distribution cost you guys mentioned beforehand that we can look at doing it ourselves. And this is what I said. We would, however, need to look at the numbers to make sure if this is profitable. And besides that, we would explore alternative distribution channels as well. You guys mentioned online. So I think, yeah, you've done really well. And that's the entire case. And now that you look at it, it's not as hard as you think it is. It comes very naturally when you start just progressing through the framework. So I think that's it on my part. If you have any questions, to put them in and I can answer them